All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize for the delay, but let's get started on the expedited accusation calendar for today, March 5th, 2025. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to be addressing these new cases in which individuals have been recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Soon after being booked in, their cases have been formally accused by the Solicitor General of Fulton County, who is the prosecutor for these cases. If you are a defendant charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, I'm sorry, it's very distracting. Will the host please switch off the video for this individual, Kotsky, and whoever is the letter A? All right, thank you. Oh, as I was saying, if you are charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. When I call your case, I will let you know what are the charges brought against you under your new case number, to appoint counsel for you when necessary, to set a bond, and also to give you a new court date. For some of you, depending on your record and the charges, you may qualify for what we call a signature bond, in which you would not have to pay for the bond today, but you would have to comply with certain conditions. Failure to comply can result in your bond being surrendered or revoked and converted to a surety bond or to a cash bond. For others who do not qualify for a signature bond, you will receive what we call a surety bond or a cash bond. In that case, you would have to pay for your bond in order to be released, and certain conditions could still attach. All right, courtroom 2, who shall we begin with?
Excuse me, Your Honor, the reset date for the SAP calendar is March the 18th.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Position number 6, Mr. Coates. And he's Ms. McLeod's client.
Did you say position number 6?
I did.
Okay. I do apologize. I think I printed the wrong calendar. Give me a moment to get to the right one.
And Your Honor, could I ask that Miss Coates, who is mom, that she be allowed to come back on the Zoom now?
Okay, let's go ahead and prompt her to start her video. And this was Sergio Coates, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right. Give me a moment.
Hello.
And Ms. Bridgewater, can you keep a running tally of the information that we do? Because I printed the wrong calendar, so I'm just going off Odyssey right now, okay?
Absolutely.
All right. This is State of Georgia versus Sergio Coates, 25 CR 011, 001140A. Mr. Coates is accused of theft by shoplifting and possession of a pistol or revolver by an individual under the age of 18 from March 3rd, 2025. Mr. Coates, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Would that be you?
Me, Your Honor. It's my client.
McLeod. You did say that.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
All right. And Mr. Howard?
This is first. Resident of Illinois.
Resident of Illinois? Okay.
That's what the booking sheet says.
All right. Ms. Waldrop?
Yes, Judge. Good afternoon, Judge. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Judge, with respect to Mr. Coates' case, the state would be asking on the theft by shoplifting for a bond of $2,500 surety on the possession of a pistol by one under the age of 18. We would be asking, Judge, for a $10,000 bond, Judge. This is based on the fact that the defendant was seen by the officer guarding the weapon into the bushes. He was with his co-defendant, which is the older gentleman, the older male suspect, his father that was present. He, being the younger male suspect, was actually seen by the officer discarding the weapon into the bushes after just having left the store, the Dollar General, where it is that they had shoplifted some items. Judge, as you heard, he's a resident of Illinois. And so when looking at bond factors, the state is certainly concerned about him fleeing the jurisdiction and returning to court. And so for those reasons, we would be asking for that surety bond in a total amount of 12.
Is the alleged co-defendant on this calendar as well?
Your Honor, I believe that he would have been on the felony first appearance calendar because he was also charged with possession of that weapon, and he is a convicted felon.
I
So
see.
I believe he made the felony first appearance.
Okay, thank you. Miss Coates, the lady in the white jacket,
Yes,
can you
ma'am.
hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. All
Okay.
right. Did you want to say something?
Um, yes,
All
Your
ma'am.
right.
Honor, if I
Let
could
me
speak
place you under
before
oath then. Please raise your
Mom
right hand.
speaks.
I'm sorry, what?
If you want to add something to the proceedings for your son, I'll need to place you under oath.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Mr. Coates' attorney is Maureen McLeod. Ms. McLeod, you were trying to say something just now?
Yes, I said I just wanted to speak before she did, Your Honor. I
Oh,
have already spoken with her, and of course, her son lives with her. He was just down here staying with his grandmother and his aunt, and he wanted to see his dad because he had seen him in a little while. So he had just gone to see his dad. He went to the store with his dad. At all times, he was in the company of his dad, who is an adult. My client was not involved in the theft at all, but he was with his dad. So anything he's alleged to have done, even if they claim he discarded a gun, he had no gun on this person. He does not have a gun. He's never had a gun. My understanding was that dad told the police that his son did not have a gun either. And the dad is also charged with this offense. My client just happened to be in his father's company. I have spoken with mom, and she tells me that, he was just down here to visit. He lives with her, he's still in high school, and as Spiritual said, he does not have any kind of record. I would be asking for a signature bond for my client. He obviously he's in an environment with mom that is a controlled environment. She's a very involved parent. I've spoken to her at length about all of this. So she has assured me that she will make sure that he comes back to court, and she wants to come down to get him. She has someone who could sign for him because I indicated to her that the court would probably require an adult to sign for him. And she has told me that she has someone here in Atlanta that she can get to sign for him. She's very anxious to get him out of jail.
well, what do you
Nothing
mean by
further.
someone in Atlanta? Definitely can't be dad.
No,
No,
it's not that.
No.
You can talk to her now and she can tell you who that person is, Your Honor.
Who's that person?
It is actually a friend of mine that would come down and get him.
Okay, you would need to come down and co-sign the bond yourself, not your friend.
Okay. I'm actually, I was on my way down there, but I had car problems, and so I'm coming down there. I'm coming down there, and
Whenever you reach there, that's when he'll be released.
and what do I have to do with
All right. Well, Ms. McLeod, on the theft by shoplifting, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through the jail, and he'll need to stay away from all Dollar General stores in the state of Georgia.
Yes, Your Honor.
And with regards to possession of a pistol by someone who is under the age of 18, that's going to be a $1,000 surety bond. This is a $3,000 split bond. He's not allowed to own or possess or have any firearms on his person, in his home, anywhere
Yes.
near him, or in any vehicle that you occupy.
Of course.
This is going to be a $3,000 split bond. You are responsible for making sure that you have a good mailing address with our court, that
Yes.
you show up to Fulton County when you are summoned for a court appearance, even if that means traveling from Illinois. Or
Definitely.
if Zoom is available by the judge, then that's good, but otherwise you'll need to appear in person.
Yes, ma'am.
No illegal drugs, no alcoholic beverages, and definitely no firearms and no weapons. So if mom owns a gun, it's either
No,
you
I don't.
or
No, none of that is around us at all.
Okay. This is going to
No.
be a signature bond through the jail, so I'm not going to require a co-signer. But so mom, you don't have to co-sign, but he will need to make sure that he reports to court when summoned. Mr.
Yes, ma'am. I will
Coates,
definitely.
Mr. Coates, you need to pay attention now. If you get a,
There might be
I can
someone
just
there
go
at
with
the
the
jail.
$10,000 bond until you learn to pay attention.
Yeah, and I think there's someone there who's trying to
No,
talk to him.
I don't care. He doesn't need to be paying attention to them. If you get arrested again for anything else, if you don't show up in court, or if you violate any other conditions of bond, like walking into a Dollar General store, we have the right to revoke your bond to a cash bond, a surety bond, or no bond. Do you understand? This is your first arrest,
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
and you've started on a very high egregious level, a firearm charge, and that's nothing to be sneezed at. And if you don't fix it, this is going to mar the rest of your future. Okay. Oh, and I want him to also have no contact with the co-defendant. What is
Thank
his
you.
name?
Jermaine Coates, that's his father, and he will not have any contact.
All right, Mr. Coates, you are to have no further contact. Thank you so much, Evelyn, appreciate it. You are to have no further contact with
Jermaine
Mr.
Coates.
Jermaine
Jermaine Coates.
Coates. You are to stay 200 yards away from him and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Position number 7, Ms. Cook.
This is Jaquela Cook, case number 25 CR 1134A. Ms. Cook has got the following charge: battery, family violence, from March 5th, 2025. Ms. Cook, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Badir. Any priors?
It's a second. She got an open 2021 case for drug trafficking and controlled substance out of Calhoun County. And she has a FTA warrant on the GCIC.
From which jurisdiction?
It said Morgan, Georgia.
Morgan, Georgia. Okay. Ms. Waldrop?
Yes, Judge. So with respect to the battery family violence charge, Judge, we are asking for a $3,500 surety bond. The facts of the case are that Ms. Cook hit Mr. Jamal Stevenson in the face during an argument, causing a visible injury to his face. Specifically, he had a laceration below his lip. They have cohabitated in the past, and so we would be asking for a $3,500 surety bond.
All right. Ms. Bader?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Ms. Cook is 23 years old. Tomorrow is her birthday. She's turning 24. And just for some important context, the complaining witness, Mr. Stevens, in this case is 42 years old, and much taller than her, much older than her. We understand the allegations, which she denies and is presumed innocent of. I will say she does have a child who is 1 year old, who is not his child, that she is eager to get back to. She does have a good address. She has been making an exit plan and has a different address. She does not want to reside with him and does not plan to. And she is also pregnant. So we do not believe that being in custody is good for her health. She is a high school graduate, and she did just recently graduate from UEI Technical College to be a medical assistant. We're asking for this court to consider a signature bond here. If not, we're asking for the bond not to exceed a $1,000 good bond.
It's going to be $1,000 surety. No further contact with Jamal Stevenson, to stay away from where he lives, where he works, or wherever he happens to be. Do they cohabitate?
They were, we don't object to the stay away, Judge.
She doesn't need a one-time visit?
Yes, she does. She does.
Okay.
That's what I was going to ask for. Thank you.
She's allowed a one-time visit with a police officer. She must be in the company of a police officer. The visit cannot exceed half an hour, and she has to remove all her belongings and then stay away from him. And of course, if her child is there, definitely get her child. no illegal drugs, no firearms, and no weapons. And I don't know if she's got any holds. If she's got a bench warrant from Morgan, Georgia, then she can only be released to a hold once she makes bond. So the bond order should read to a release to any pending holds. And next court date will be March 18th.
Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Bridgewater, also make a note for Mr. Coates. We just addressed he had a split bond. His next court date is March 18th as well,
Yes, ma'am.
if he's still in custody.
Okay.
Position number 3, Mr. Benjamin Brown.
This is Benjamin Brown, case number 25 CR 1132G. Mr. Brown, you've been advised of your rights. You're accused of theft of services and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Bader. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
15. You got to open forgery in the third. Out of Fulton, it's 24 PI 003198. Open financial transaction, card theft, identity theft fraud. It's 24 PI 004336. Got an open identity theft fraud out of Ben Hill County. And forgery in the third, 2024 FTA, 2020 ag assault conviction. 2019 and 12 FTA.
Thank you. Ms. Waldrop?
Yes, Judge. As you heard, Mr. Brown has an extensive history, 15 cycles, multiple theft, fraud charges. This case is more of the same. He is alleged to have essentially stolen electricity from a AT&T tower. And then when approached by officers who were doing their investigation, fled. On the theft of service charge, Judge, we would be asking for a $2,000 surety bond, and on the obstruction charge, a $2,500 surety bond.
Okay. Ms. Bader?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Brown is 53 years old. He's been an Atlanta resident his whole life. He does have two sisters and 3 brothers who live in the area. He would have a good address in Decatur with his brother Calvin at 3012 River Road in Decatur, Georgia. He did graduate from Walker High School, and he did complete 1 year of business school, and generally does work doing home improvement. Just a little bit more context to this case. This was at essentially a encampment of those who are residentially challenged in tents, and an officer approached. It's unclear to me for what reason, but it doesn't sound like there's really a complaining witness in this case. There were definitely a lot of assumptions being made, and Mr. Brown has a good relationship with the landowner, and he was not the only one who was camping on this particular property and was simply asking for notice if the officer didn't want them to stay there anymore. And for that reason, he ended up really being the one with a charge. He had been staying there for 6 months consecutively. So with the facts in this particular case in mind, I understand he's got some other cases that he will have to go to court for, but for this, the facts of this case are concerning, but for me, in terms of how people who are residentially challenged are treated in this city, I'm asking for this court to consider a signature bond through the jail. Otherwise, for it not to exceed a $1,000 good bond.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yeah, anything else?
if I may just provide some context to the context, the reason that the officer actually approached was because he observed a cut in a barbed wire fence on what appeared to be government property. So when they got out and entered the property, they attempted to speak with those occupants of those various tents and made contact with the defendant, who stated he had gotten permission to stay on the property, but when asked who had given them this authority, they could not provide a name and were unwilling to provide a name while the police were doing their investigation. Given that, the admission of being residentially challenged, the state certainly has concerns about Mr. Brown coming back to court. There was another individual that was arrested on scene. That's I think it's Priestley, and she should be position number 13 on your calendar.
Okay.
But yes, Judge, the state stands by its recommendation.
And 500 on each count, that's $1,000 surety. Next court date is March 18th. To stay away from the incident location, at least 200 yards away. And next court date is March 18th. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons. And he'll need to update us with a good mailing address within 30 days of being released. Thank you. Do we have Ms. Priestley available, courtroom 2?
No, she's over here, Judge. Good afternoon. This is position 13, Ms. Presley.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm saying. They tried to print the wrong calendar. That was 16, right? No,
No,
13.
position 13.
Okay. Rodrika Presley, sorry. Case 25 CR 1133G. It appears that this may be the companion case to the one we just did. Miss Presley is accused of theft of services in the same context. She's been advised of her rights, and her attorney is Miss McLeod. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
14. Open obstruction out of Clarkston. Open shoplifting out of Lawrenceville. On probation in Cherokee County. Shoplifting, simple assault, simple battery. 2021 FTA. 2017 shoplifting conviction. 2016 simple battery trespass conviction. 2015 disorderly conduct trespass conviction.
Ms. Waldrop, it's going to be a $500 surety bond, but Ms. McLeod, I don't know if you want to, she's got her FTA within the last 4 years, so she doesn't qualify for a signature bond. I mean, I can do it 1,000 if it's easier to go through a bonding company, but you need to let me know. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor, I did not receive a copy of the warrant in her case, so I am not sure exactly what is alleged against her.
Okay. Ms. Waldrop, would you happen to have a copy of the pleadings?
Judge, I can pull up the accusation as well as the warrant.
My quick review was I thought it was stemming from the same situation as
it is, Judge. It is. It's the stealing of that electricity from an AT&T tower. That is correct. Yes.
At the same property, right?
Yes, correct. Same location. Yes.
But yeah, if you want to send the warrant to Ms. McLeod,
yes,
give her an opportunity to look at it.
Yes, absolutely. Just give me a moment.
Francois, we're going to have to hold on Ms. Presley until her attorney gets a chance to look at the documents.
Not a problem, Judge.
Okay, courtroom 2, who do we have?
Number 4, Burton.
All right, this is Jameer Burton, accused of pointing or aiming a gun or pistol at another from March 4th, 2025, under case number 25 CR 001138D. Mr. Burton, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Badir. Who's your attorney? Mr. McLean? Oh, Mr. McLean? Okay. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
First arrest, a resident of Philly.
All right. Ms. Waldrop?
Yes, Judge. So as you heard, this is Mr. Burton's first arrest. However, Judge, given the seriousness of the charge and the allegation in this case, the state is asking for a high bond, a $15,000 surety bond, Judge. And the basis for that, Judge, is the facts of this case. Mr. Burton was heard and seen knocking on the door of an apartment. The individuals inside of the apartment, there were 2 occupants, a mother and a son, informed him that he had the wrong apartment. And he then put a firearm up to the peephole of the apartment. And the son, who was an occupant, Mr. Antonio High, actually was looking out of the peephole and could see that firearm being pointed at him. At that point, he had to take cover in fear that he may be shot. And so the seriousness of the allegation, Judge, I think warrants not only a high bond, a surety bond, and then also too, given that he is a resident of what I heard, I believe was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, we have serious concerns about him returning to the jurisdiction to face these charges. We'd be asking for a $15,000 surety bond.
I'm sorry, did you say 1,500 or 15,000? Oh, I thought you said 2,500.
No, Judge.
15,000.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, he's been here in Georgia a month, so he is pretty fresh, but he has moved from Philadelphia. I have his address in Philadelphia. He's got relatives there. They can watch his mail until he gets established here better. But, Your Honor, admittedly, his ties to the community are new, not non-existent. He is a high school graduate and has gone to Shippensburg College, working on his bachelor's in arts, excuse me, I wrote down BA, that's business administration, excuse me. Have you finished that degree, sir? He's still working on it, and it is his first arrest. He is organized, he knows what he's doing as far as being able to keep up with his mail, make it back to court at any time and place on time. So we would ask the court to consider a signature bond.
$5,000 surety bond. Stay away from 1211 Harbor Links in Fairburn, Georgia. He's to stay 200 yards away from that entire location, even if it's a complex. No further contact with Antonio High and all the other occupants of that apartment. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. So any firearm he possesses must be surrendered to the authorities for destruction. His next court date will be March 18th. If he does make bond, he would need to provide us with a good mailing address within 30 days of being released, and it cannot be the location at Harbor Links in Fairburn. Thank you.
5, Mr. Caldwell.
Okay. And I'm sorry, could you give me that position number again, please?
Position number 5.
5, okay. Gosh, come on. David Caldwell is case number 25 CR 001130E. Mr. Caldwell is accused of theft by shoplifting from March 4th of 2025. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Bader. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
Third arrest, 2023 theft by taking 4 counts. Forgery in the 3rd degree, 8 counts. Oh, that's exploit, inflict pain on a disabled person or elder. That's all.
Okay. Ms. Waldron?
Yes, Your Honor. This charge stems from Mr. Caldwell being an employee of Walmart. While an employee of Walmart, he was seen on the self-checkout video camera scanning some items while intentionally failing to scan others, resulting in his ability to take those items without paying for them. State would be asking for a $1,500 surety bond.
Ms. Bader?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Caldwell is 22 years old. He has very strong ties to the community. He's lived at the same address with his mother his whole life in Columbus, Georgia, the one the court has on file. He graduated from Jordan Vocational High School and played basketball in high school. Has previously also been employed at Allied University and Chick-fil-A. He has no prior convictions. Judge, if we'd be asking the court to consider a signature bond or for the bond not to exceed $1,000 good bond.
$1,000 surety bond. Stay away from all Walmarts, including the incident location. Next court date is March 18th. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons.
Thank you.
Number 8,
Okay, is that in ACDC?
courtroom 2.
Courtroom 2, okay. This is David Matthew Diner, Diner, case number 25 CR 001135Y. Mr. Diner, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Ms. Bader, and this is going to be a charge of theft by shoplifting from October 30th, 2024. All right. Mr. Howard, any priors?
This death day, 20 total. Got an open
20
fleeing.
cycles?
Yes. Open fleeing an officer out of Sandy Springs on probation. Possession of a firearm by convicted felon or felony first offender. Possession of meth, 23 SC 190556. 2009, entering auto, theft by taking conviction. Most of the history is drugs and probation violations.
All right, thank you. Ms. Waldron?
Yes, Your Honor. This case involves the stealing of the ladder from Home Depot. Notwithstanding the facts, Judge, given the 20 cycles and the history of probation violations, the state does not believe that he is a good candidate for bond or that he will abide by the conditions that the court sets. We would be asking for a $1,500 surety bond.
Ms. Bader?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Diener, I'm sorry, sir, if I'm mispronouncing that. He's 35 years old. I'm eager to tell the court what he's accomplished considering his history. As you heard, most of his history is drug related, and it was a result of an addiction. He is in school now. He's actually a sophomore at Georgia State, getting his associates in business. His days are pretty packed because Monday through Friday, he starts going to school at Georgia State, and then he works part-time from 10 to 4. And then he goes to the daily reporting center as part of his probation, which is drug rehabilitation program, starting from 6 p.m. So he works, he goes to school, and he does a program for drug rehabilitation where, like I said, he has to go every day. He has to go to AA classes. He's been doing well. He started that in November. This charge is from October, from before he started this. He's been living at the same address with his mother for the last 5 years. He's been in Atlanta his whole life. He does have shared custody with a 3-year-old son that he's hoping he'll be able to be more involved in his life as he's getting better. And he actually was in court for a traffic ticket when he was arrested on this. This is an older warrant. So considering everything he has going on and the great progress he's making, we're asking for a signature bond.
Bond is set at $1,000. It's a surety bond. Stay away from the Home Depot incident location as well as all Home Depot stores. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons. Next court date is March 18th. If he does make bond, please make sure that he maintains the current address so he'll come back to court when summoned. Thank you.
ACD.
Sorry? Is Ms. Presley's case ready? Ms. McLeod, are you ready?
Still on it?
Okay. Francois, is Ms. Presley available? All right. And yes, as I was saying, I was going to grant a $500 surety, but I don't know if some bonding companies allow for that. So given her 15 cycles, her 2021 FTA, I can either go with 1,000 or 500.
Yeah, but she doesn't have anyone to bond her out. So
So it'll
whether
be
it's
$1,000
500
surety?
or 1,000, you
Okay.
know, I did speak with her mother who lives in Winder, Georgia, Your Honor. And
It's a FTA that's preventing her from qualifying for a signature bond.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
I
It's
think I will
$1,000
be filing
surety.
a
She's to stay.
motion.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to be filing a motion on her behalf, Your Honor, for mental health evaluation.
Okay. Meantime, she is to stay away from the incident location, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And all right, and we'll look forward to your proposed request. Thank you.
Thank you, Your
Her
Honor.
next court date is March 18th, unless you require her to go to the 11 o'clock competency calendar.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right,
March
thank
18th.
you.
What is the bond amount again?
1,000 surety.
Thanks.
Next courtroom 2, who do we have? Or who am I going to?
With ACDC to do a lot first.
Okay. Francois, who do we have next?
This is position number 18.
All right. We have April Thamalapalli, 25 CR 001146J. Ms. Thamalapalli, you have been accused of reckless conduct from February 24th, 2025. You've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Bader. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
18, open ag assault, damage to property, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon or felony first offender. It's 23 CP 216471. Open case out of Coweta County, simple battery, family violence. 2019 battery DV conviction, 2018 battery DV first offender, 2 FTAs from 2018, 2018 trespass obstruction first offender, and 2013 FTA.
All right, thank you. Ms. Waldrop?
This is Nicholas, Your Honor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Mukegi?
Good afternoon. This incident happened on the 24th of February. The victim in this case is Mr. Isaac Adebayo. The victim met with the defendant so that she could pay for the rental car that she had received from him. She was trying to get money together, and then she started the car and attempted to drive away. The victim did grab onto the vehicle, and the defendant drove away while he was holding on and pushed him off while the vehicle was in motion. Our office has spoken with Mr. Adebayo, who confirmed that he rented a vehicle to the defendant and she was not paying. He asked for her to give him the keys back and she refused. As he was calling the police, the defendant then proceeded to drive off while he was holding on. He did tell our office that he sustained scratches and bruises to his leg and hand, so additional charges may be following. He did get his car back and states the defendant still owes him $700. He, of course, wants no contact with her. She currently has a $5,000 surety bond. We would ask that that surety bond remain the same, that the defendant have no further contact with the victim, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. That this is, of course, based on the concerning allegations in this case, as well as her criminal history.
Ms. Bader? Oh, Mr. McLean, I'm sorry.
I have to stand behind him, Your Honor, because I don't want to, I can't have one client reading another client's notes while I'm talking.
Understood. It's a bit awkward, but go ahead.
It's a little bit awkward, but if I scoot down.
You're good.
You see my face? Okay. Now, Ms. Thumala Palays.
Miss April. Let's go with Miss April.
April, I'm sorry. Lives at a stable address on Sable Way, 30349. She is working on her certification for a profession. She's a high school graduate and has gone further. She's on SSI disability right now, but is trying to make a little extra income with the driving. She has worked in a hospital. She's worked as a manager at Zaxby. She's worked as a hotel manager, and she intends to make her court. She disagrees with the facts as stated. So we would ask the court to consider a signature bond. She's been here since she was 5 years old, 30 years in Georgia.
Bond is set at $3,000. That's a surety bond. No further contact with Isaac Adebayo. Stay away from the incident location. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no firearms. Next court date is going to be March 18th. Thank you.
Your Honor, did you say that was 1,000?
3.
3,000. Okay, thank you.
Numbers 9, Mr. Hammonds.
This estate versus Terry Wayne Hammonds, case number 25 CR 001136C. Mr. Hammonds has been accused of theft by taking from February 26, 2025. So you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Barder. Any priors?
You gotta bear with me. 22 total. Got an open battery out of state court. Unlawful to possess, display, or use any false, fraudulent, alter identification documents. That's open in state court. Open burglary, 2nd degree, and DeKalb. Identity theft, fraud, open in Gwinnett. I see another open burglary in the 2nd degree. On probation and out of Brookhaven for suspended license. Fulton County, possession of meth. Suspended license. That's 24 SC 000582. Got to open. I'm on probation for theft by receiving. 24 SC 006 529 2024 FTA.
That's good. Thank you. Ms. Waldrop or Ms. Mokeke? I wasn't sure.
Yes, Judge, we're back to me. Judge, the state is asking for a $2,000 surety that is based on the history, which you heard, multiple cycles involving theft, fraud, burglary. This particular case, he is alleged to have stolen a
Office chair?
package office chair, correct, from a leasing office mailroom, such property belonging to Mr. Eric Pettaway. And so given the history, Judge, we would be asking for a $2,000 surety bond.
Ms. Bardet?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Hammonds is 45 years old. We understand the allegation. He does vehemently deny these allegations and looks forward to, in the future, having a trial in this case. He himself has documentation that he also had ordered a chair. He does have good ties to the community, 20 years in the Atlanta area, family, friends in the area. He does have a good address with a friend, Kobe Ellison, at 5101 Pine Heights Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. He's his best friend of 15 years. Mr. Hammonds is a high school graduate, normally has worked previously in customer service, and has worked at Lowe's. He doesn't know the complaining witness in this case, so we wouldn't object to a no contact. Like I said, he has a good address. We'll be receiving notice in the mail for court. We're asking this court to consider a signature bond. This is a nonviolent offense. If not, we're asking for the bond not to exceed a $1,000 surety bond.
Okay. And does he live at the location where the alleged chair, the mailing room?
Not anymore, Your Honor.
Okay. Bond is set at $1,500. It is a surety bond. Next court date is March 18th. He's to have no contact with Eric Pettaway, stay away from the incident location. Unfortunately, due to his open cases, including with state court and his FTA, he doesn't qualify for a signature bond. Ms. Bridgewater, we're going to reset this case to March 18th, along with his 2 other cases, 22 CR 007039C and 23 CR 007001C.
Got it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Number 10, Kemp.
Marquette Kemp, his 25 CR 001137F. Mr. Kemp, you've been charged with criminal trespass causing damage to property. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Barder. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
The 10th arrest. You got an open robbery and ag assault. It's 24 SC 005553. Open possession of a Schedule 2, 24 SC 005-950. Open possession of cocaine with intent, possession of a firearm by convicted felon, possession of a firearm during the commission. It's 24 SC 004-246.
That's good. Thank you. Ms. Waldron?
Yes, Judge. The allegation in this case is that Mr. Kemp actually slashed the tires, all four tires belonging to the vehicle of Miss Nadia Evans. The two were or are married and had been together as a couple for 3 years. He had actually been put out of the residence and in retaliation slashed her tires, not only causing damage, but obviously interfering with her use of her vehicle. The state would be asking, based on his history, for a $3,500 surety bond. And of course, it goes without saying, we'd be asking for no further contact with Miss Evans and stay away from the incident location.
Miss Nadia Evans, are you on Zoom? All right. Ms. Bardet?
Your Honor, Mr. Kemp is 36 years old. He's lived in the Atlanta area all his life. He has family in the area. He works cleaning up office buildings and has also worked as doing security. Judge, we would object to the stay away and no contact. I believe that the two have a baby on the way. As you heard, they are legally married. So we would just humbly object to those and ask for no further violent contact if possible. And then we would ask for the bond to not exceed $1,000. Thank you.
The original bond set by the judge signing the warrant was $15,000. So I'm curious to know what's going on. Is it Richardson Street, the marital home?
One moment, Judge. Your Honor, I show, yes, the address of 259 Richardson Street, specifically apartment or unit number 609.
With regards to this criminal trespass causing damage to property, yes, there is an argument that this is marital property and he has just as much right to damage the vehicle as she would. Unfortunately, it looks like this may still be an infringement upon her use of the vehicle. So the bond's going to be set at $1,500. This is a surety bond. Next court date is March 18th at 9 a.m. Mr. Kemp, you are to have no further contact with Nadia Evans, and you are to stay away from 259 Richardson Street in Southwest Atlanta, Georgia. So right now you got a bond order that requires you to stay away and have no contact. You're allowed to go to that property one time only with a police officer to retrieve your belongings, and then within 30 days of being released, you will update the court with your new mailing address. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons and firearms. In the event that Ms. Nadia Evans decides to get a protective order, please keep in mind that you would still need to comply with this bond order. Your next court date is March 18th.
Position number 11, Zarula.
I'm sorry, could you give me that name, position again?
11.
11, thank you. Okay. This is State versus Deepak Nirula, 25 CR 001139G. Mr. Nirula, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Mr. Nirula is accused of 2 counts of reckless conduct from March 4th, 2025. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
For 2013, illegal alien, 09 probation, 08 battery DV conviction. That's all.
Okay. Ms. Waldron?
This is me again, Your Honor.
Oh, Ms. Mokeke, sorry.
No problem. The victims in this case are Saki Freeman and Kinasha Mason. This incident occurred at 365 Cleveland Avenue Southwest in Atlanta. Officers arrived at the location and met with Mr. Freeman, who stated that a worker at the location had shot at his window while he was in the car with Miss Mason, which caused his back driver's side window to shatter. Officers met with the defendant, who told them that there was an unknown male causing a disturbance inside the store and that he shot his firearm to scare the unknown male away. He thought he had been shooting at the ground. When officers asked the defendant where the firearm was, he stated that he had dropped the firearm after he shot it and the unknown male had taken it. Officers did recover a 9mm shell casing at the scene and also discovered the firearm in the location behind the counter. Our office has spoken with Mr. Saki Freeman, who states he was driving Uber for Miss Mason and was pulling into the destination. He states the defendant was shooting at someone and the person was running towards his car. When the defendant shot, it hit his window, of course, and caused it to shatter. He hasn't gotten an estimate on the damage yet. The state's recommendation, given the severity of the facts of this case, is a $10,000 surety bond, that he have no further contact with Ms. Kanisha Mason and Mr. Saki Freeman, that he surrender all firearms that are currently in his possession, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would just ask the court to sound for the victims in this case.
Mr. Freeman and Ms. Mason? All right, Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Narula, of course, is working at the store. Basically, we would be asking the court to consider, he lives in Snellville. He's lived there quite a while. He has a wife and 3 children who are 8, 4, and 1.
I'm good.
We would ask the court to consider a signature bond or a $1,000 surety bond, Your Honor. It'd be appropriate, even though he should not, during the pendency of the case, it would be appropriate for the court to order no guns. At the same time, he probably ought to take a gun safety course. Thank you.
All right. On the 2 counts of reckless conduct is going to be $2,000. That's going to be a $4,000 surety bond. No further contact with, was it Zachary Freeman?
Saki, S-A-C-I-E.
Oh, Saki. Got it. S-A-C-K-I-E Freeman and Miss Mason, Kanisha Mason. I'm going to, well, my problem is keeping him away from that location because he's not allowed to have any firearms. So if the owner of that Old South package store keeps firearms in the property, then Mr. Narula is not allowed in the property. So that's going to be the restriction. Presently, he is not allowed to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not allowed to have any firearms. If that particular location, the Old South, some of these liquor stores or convenience stores keep guns in there for protection, but unfortunately, Mr. Narula, if the owner or the operator of that business keeps firearms at their property, you're not allowed inside that property. You're also to have no contact with Freeman and Mason, and you're not allowed to own, possess, or handle any firearms. Your next court date is going to be March 18th.
Your Honor, repeat that bond amount if you would.
$2,000 on each count.
Okay, I thought I heard you say a total of 3,000, but it's 4,000.
4,000.
Okay.
Do we have
Next case.
an add-on calendar? Because we have 2 people that are not on the calendar.
You do?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Number 15, Rose.
Did you say 15?
Yes.
Okay. Tacorius Rose is case number 25 CR 001143B. Mr. Rose has been accused of simple battery, family violence, and terroristic threats and acts from November 19, 2024. Any priors? I'm sorry, he's been advised of his rights, and his attorney is Mr. McLean.
12.
12 cycles?
Correct. Got an open ag assault, possession of a firearm during the commission, Battery DV, criminal damage to property, second degree. That's 25 SC 000151. That's an open obstruction too, and an open theft by receiving out of Clayton County, 2020 FTA.
2020, okay. And that was Clayton, okay. Thank you. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened November 19th. The victim is Miss Tamara Baylor, who is the defendant's mother. I have that the incident location is 2637 Old Hateville Road. The victim told officers that her son had become upset because she told him Clark County investigators had called and wanted to speak with him. The defendant was suspected of setting fire to the victim's apartment while they were in Clark County. The victim told officers the defendant pushed her down and then went to retrieve his handgun. He then proceeded to brandish the handgun while pointing it at the floor, making statements like, "I'll shoot you up and I'll break your legs." The victim left the apartment and went to try to obtain a restraining order before going to the Zone 3 precinct to report the incident. Officers noted that they do have a history of 911 calls to the location due to arguments between the parties, but they had just been verbal altercations until the day of the incident. I will note that the defendant did get an initial TPO, the victim initially got a TPO and it was dismissed due to non-service. That is 24 CV 014652. The state's recommendation for Mr. Rose is a $5,000 surety bond, no further contact with this victim, stay away from the incident location, that he surrender any and all firearms in his possession, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for Ms. Tamara Baylor.
Ms. Baylor, if you're on Zoom, this is the time to unmute and start your video. I don't see anyone. Okay. Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ticorius Rose is 27. He's a graduate of North Clayton High School on Norman Drive, near the airport. He has North Clayton High School. He has done landscaping work and he's also done retail merchandise selling work. He is from Georgia all his life, and if there is a stay away, he's young enough to have friends to stay with, Your Honor. I see that the other party is not on the Zoom, so I'm anticipating there may be a issue there. But I would ask the court nonetheless to consider a signature bond in this case, and if not, then a $1,000 surety bond.
Is there anyone here in support of Mr. Ticorius Rose? This will be the time. I thought I heard someone. No? Okay. On each count of reckless excuse me, let me rephrase that. On simple battery family violence, that's going to be $1,500. On the terroristic threats and acts, that's going to be $2,500. This is a total of $4,000. This is a cash bond only. No further contact with Tamara Baylor, to stay away from 2637 Old Hateville Road, Unit 16F in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. His next court date is March 18th. Thank you.
Number 16, Sheets.
This is Ricardo Sheets, 25 CR 001144E. Mr. Sheets, you've been accused of abandonment of a dependent child, which is basically a child support arrears case, and there's a warrant for your arrest. The allegation that this is abandonment issue from September 11th of last year. You've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. And Ms. Mokeke, what's a purge amount, if any, on this warrant?
That the purge amount is $565. We would, of course, just ask that it stay what it is. And once he pays it, he can be released. He is also being held on felony charges.
Okay. Mr. McLean, anything else to add?
That he has
I'm sorry, you're on mute. Go ahead.
I see that he has a stable address on Lamar Avenue, and he tells me that I was going to mention his jobs. He's worked at Bojangles, he has worked at, which is the chain, of course. Mr. Everything is a restaurant he worked at for over a decade. He's a cook. And his Bojangles checks actually has been, let's see, garnish sheet, you would say, or, an amount has been taken out for the
I'm
child.
sorry, Mr. McLean, you were fading out. Were you saying that he was getting
He is
child support payments from his paycheck at Bojangles?
at Bojangles, they are taking money out for his child support payments. So he's doing what he can, and we would ask the court for any consideration it can give on that account. I don't
All
have
right.
don't have the
Well, unfortunately, the warrant has a purge amount, so I can't amend that. If it had the basic standard bond, we could address that, but it's a purge amount. So he would need to pay that $565 in order to be released on this child support case. And then if he has any issues with child support accounting, he would need to go to the Office of Child Support Services to resolve any discrepancies. But in the meantime, he's still got a felony hold. So his next court date on this case is March 18th, pending his payment of the $565.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Number 17, Stevens.
This is State versus Randy Stevens, accused of battery family violence in case number 25 CR 001145C. Mr. Stevens, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Ninth arrest. Got an open suspended license out of Fayette County. Open simple battery out of state court. It's 24 CR 003-271C. And another open suspended license on a 2024 FTA. That's it.
Is that from the?
Hmm?
Oh, okay, and he made new bond on December 10th. Okay, all right. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor, that open simple battery family violence that Mr. Howard mentioned is against the same victim as this incident. He was ordered to have no further contact with her, so he is in violation of that bond. The victim is Ms. Camille Webb, who shares a child with the defendant. Officers responded to a fight in progress call at 1827 Honeysuckle Lane and spoke with the victim, who stated the defendant had initially told her that she could not ride with him, so she began walking. The defendant proceeded to follow her in the vehicle. A verbal dispute occurred and the defendant began threatening to harm her, so she began running. The defendant pulled the car over, chased her, and shoved her to the ground. Officers did note the victim had a scrape on her wrist. The defendant has called the victim since he's been in jail. They talk about various things, but he tells her to come to court and tell them that nothing is wrong, that she doesn't know what the police did, and that they should let him go because the parties have a child. Like I said, during the plethora of conversations they had, he just insists that she comes to court today to help him out. Our office has spoken with the victim, who confirms her and the defendant are not in a relationship. They do not live together. They share one child. The incident location is her apartment complex, and the defendant was supposed to be taking her to the grocery store, but refused to do so. She, of course, confirmed the events in the warrant, stated she only called the police to de-escalate the situation, and she does not wish to press charges. She still wants to have contact with the defendant because they have a child together, which, of course, echoes what he told her to say on the phone. The state's recommendation for the defendant, based on his history, the open case, the conversations he's had with this victim, is a $10,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, stay away from the victim's residence. The report says it's 1817 Honeysuckle Lane Southwest. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for the victim in this case, Ms. Camille Webb.
Ms. Camille Webb, if you are on Zoom, you are free to start your video and unmute. All right, Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Randy Stevens is a Georgian all his life. He is a graduate of high school on Old National Highway. It's called Life Christian Academy. They've moved, but he's a chef at Atlanta University. Has been a chef there on campus for 3 years. Before that, he worked at the Walmart warehouse. He denies these charges, and he also lives on Peak, and I think it's known as stated that they don't live together. We would ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible, including the signature bond if that is in the offing, or if that is possible, and if not, then a $1,000 surety bond.
Okay. In the underlying case with Camille Webb, his restriction was no further violent contact with Camille Webb. So I guess he could have had contact, but I guess he's now been arrested as a result of that contact. So I'm not certain what exactly happened, and Miss Webb is not present to give us her side of the events. With regards to that was a 2,500 signature bond through the jail. And so I'm not going to touch that right now, but on this new case, it's going to be a 2,500 cash bond only. Next court date is going to be March 18th. And now the restriction is no further contact, no contact at all with Camille Webb, which means that from this point onwards, you cannot speak to her in person, through phone, electronic devices, or even through a third party. No contact with the child that you share with Miss Webb. If you want to have any kind of contact with the child, I'll allow for third-party transfer as long as you have a court order establishing paternity, visitation, and custody, which means that upon release, you must file a legitimation action to get a court order to establish visitation and custody. All right? And then only will I allow some kind of contact between you and the child. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons, and we'll see you on the 18th unless you bond out. Thank you.
And that was my bad, Your Honor. I had read that original bond wrong. I was reading too quickly.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Next case.
Position number 19, Mr. Walden. Sit down, sir.
19. Okay. This is Elijah Walden, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Case number 25 CR 001147C. Mr. Walden, you've been accused of theft by shoplifting and willful obstruction of an officer from March 3rd, 2025. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Second, 2016 disrupting public school conviction.
20 when?
2016.
Oh, 2016. Okay, so this is 2 cycles. All right. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened at the Walmart located at 5200 Windward Parkway in Milton. The defendant is accused of stealing Listerine, sanitizer wipes, and a head of cauliflower from the incident location. When officers asked that he face the vehicle so he could be Terry frisked, he refused to do so and began to struggle with the officers and physically resist arrest. It did take 3 officers to detain the defendant. Given his limited criminal history, the state's recommendation is for a signature bond, that he stay away from that Walmart, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Right. Mr. McLean, does your client have a current mailing address? I've got a Powder Springs location.
He's got that Kipling Drive is his family, and if he'll just stay in touch with his
I'm not his
family.
client. You're not my representative.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely have let him know that already.
Okay, that's news to
I'm
us.
sorry. Just one second. Just one second. Mr.
He
McLean,
said-
has Mr. Walden indicated to you that he would like to represent himself or have another attorney?
Not until now.
Yeah, that's what's
Nope.
going on. Okay.
All right, that's perfectly fine. Mr. Walden, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you choose to say can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, you can be appointed with a public defense counsel. Now, if you choose to waive your right to public defense counsel, then you have a right to hire your own attorney, or you can choose to represent yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
If you choose to represent yourself, then you are responsible for all legal arguments, all legal decisions that you make, and how it may impact upon you, your freedom, or any other open cases you may have, including factors such as residency and your ability to be released from jail. So, would you like to have the services of a public defense attorney?
No, ma'am. I would like to represent myself.
All right. So you are voluntarily and willingly waiving your right to counsel? I need to hear a yes or a no.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. McLean, you can take 5 or you wait for your next case.
I was going to mention, Your Honor, I think he is under the help and assistance of ministries, and I think we can get some counseling there, Your Honor. I think there may be an issue here.
Okay. Well, let me see what he has to say. Yes, Mr. Walden?
Public insults is exactly why he's not my representative, and I told him before he started to speak.
I'm not interested in hearing about what you and Mr. McLean talk about. The prosecutor is asking me to give you a signature bond through pretrial. And what is your response?
Our response to the signature pretrial.
Well, would you like to hear the prosecutor again? Ms. Mokeke, what's your recommendation?
Your Honor, the state's recommendation, sorry, let me get back to my notes, is a signature bond through pretrial services that he stay away from that Walmart located at 5200 Windward Parkway in Milton, Georgia, and that he have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
All right. Mr. Walden, do you have a response? Yes, no?
No, I do not. No.
Yes, I agree.
With the signature bond, that is, I do not agree with the drug and alcohol while out on bond. I don't.
Well, that will be a minimum requirement.
Okay. All right.
And you need to stay away from all Walmart stores, including the one on Windward Parkway. You're not allowed into a single one.
Most definitely. I just definitely also understood that
You can't go into any Walmart store.
the charges wasn't exactly.
You need to speak up.
The mic is towards the TV.
Okay, so you understand that you won't be able to enter into any Walmart store? Anyone? Would you agree to that?
I don't agree with it.
Okay. Bond is set at $1,000 surety bond to stay away from the Walmart store at 5200 Windward Parkway, as well as all other Walmart stores. And his next court date is going to be March 18. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons. In order for you to secure your release, you need to post a bond of $1,000. And once you post your bond, make sure that we have your correct mailing address within 30 days. In the meantime, I'm going to require a social worker visit with regards to Mr. Walden. Thank you.
Your Honor, is that 500 on each charge?
Yes.
Okay.
Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
This is position 12.
This is Jennifer Parfit, accused on case number 25 CR 0011411Y. Ms. Parfit, the charge brought against you is theft by shoplifting from March 3rd, 2025. You've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
16. Got an open case in Superior Court, shoplifting, criminal damage to property, giving false name, obstruction, terrorist threats, 24 PI 005658.
I'm sorry, 005658?
Correct.
And that's a open shoplifting case?
Yeah, shoplifting, criminal damage to property, giving false name, terrorist threats.
And I'm sorry, how many
obstruction.
cycles does she have?
16.
16 cycles. Thank you. Ms. Mokeke?
Oh, she got open cases out of Ohio too.
Ohio. All right.
Yes, Your Honor. I also see that she has two 2023 convictions for theft out of Ohio, one of them being a felony. The incident location in this incident is the Walmart located at 844 Cleveland Avenue Southwest in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of stealing $376.93 worth of items from the location. The defendant exited the store with the stolen items and was stopped by officers. She currently has a $1,000 surety bond. We would just ask that that surety bond remain the same, that she stay away from all Walmart locations, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, Ms. Parfit has been in Georgia for a year. Her husband and she live here. They have an address that is stable and a good mailing address at 1931 Joseph Boone, apartment 21. There shouldn't be a problem coming to court. Her income right now is from SSI disability. She has a condition that will cause her to rely upon that for the time being for income. She has no FTAs, I'm told, and no violent convictions. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond.
Okay, bond is going to be set at 2,000. That's a surety bond to stay away from the Walmart and Cleveland Avenue and all Walmart stores. Next court date is March 18th. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Oh, it's like this. Yeah, so that was raised.
Next case, please. How many do we have on our add-on, Ms. Mukeke?
We have two cases add on here.
Okay.
Sorry, Ms. McLean.
Number 20, Williams.
This is State versus Leandre Williams, 25 CR 001148E. Mr. Williams is accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property and disorderly conduct from March 4th of this year. Mr. Williams, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. And how many priors does he have, if any?
13. Resident of South Carolina. History comes out of South Carolina. 2024 public disorderly conduct conviction. He has several driving under suspicion arrests. 2019 malicious injury to animal, property, or person conviction. 2018 entering premises. It says warning conviction. And 2018 possession of marijuana conviction.
Thank you. Ms. Mukeke?
Your Honor, this incident happened at 3283 Washington Road in East Point. The defendant is accused of kicking in the victim's door, breaking the frame. Officers observed pieces of the broken door frame on the living room floor. While pat searching the defendant, he began to use homophobic language in order to provoke the officers. Our office has spoken with the victim in this case. Give me one moment. Let me just get his name for you. That would be Mr. Raisha Quante Wright, or Miss Raisha Quante Wright. The victim and the defendant are in a relationship. They live together at the incident location. They just moved to Atlanta, and the defendant has been living at the for about a week. The victim confirmed the events in the warrant, but stated the defendant was only banging on the door. He did not kick the door in. The door was already damaged prior to them moving in. They had gotten into arguments in the past, but nothing like this. He states the police should have never been called. The victim only wanted the defendant to leave so that things could calm down. The victim's not in fear of the defendant and wants to continue contact and wants the defendant to return to the residence. The state's recommendation is a $2,000 surety bond, no further violent contact with the victim, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, I would ask the court to sound for Ray Shaquante Wright.
Raisha White, if you're on Zoom, this is the time to, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, do you lease or own the property question?
I lease.
All right, so it's the land's door that's broken.
Yes, ma'am. To my knowledge, that when I went up there, they're in the process of remodeling it, and they moved me in too quickly, and they're still in the process of remodeling it. So they put a temporary fix on the door, and I guess when he was banging on it, which I thought he kicked it, but he didn't. He was banging on it.
Why?
He did. I guess you know how you have a argument back and forth, and I had locked him out, so he was banging on it for for me to let him back in. But he was just banging on the door, and I guess it showed the imperfections that were there. So I followed up with the leasing office, and I asked him, I was like, "How is it that my boyfriend was banging on the door and this happened?" And that's when they told me, they said, "Well, we just did a temporary fix, and they're gonna fix it. We just moved you in too quickly."
All right, thank you. Mr. McLean, anything else to add?
Your Honor, he is visiting, but the address is stable. We would ask the court to, he also has been to Allen University and is for bachelor's in Columbia, South Carolina. He's also now matriculated at Benedict University, also in Columbia, South Carolina, working on his master's in music. He'll get his degree in 2027. He works on, I believe it must be online because it's through Aflac Insurance Company for 3 years. And so he's also a student still and working online. We would ask the court to consider as low a bond as possible, whatever is available, considering the circumstances. Even out of state, he will make bond. I mean, he will make court on time.
Okay.
Not that far away.
On the criminal trespass causing damage to property is 2,000 and the disorderly conduct is 500. This is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. He will need to report to pretrial once a month. Within 30 days of being released, he must update the court of his new address in writing. So he'll need to come down to the clerk's office and update that. No further violent contact with the alleged victim, Mr. Rondell White. And just FYI, typically landlords in these kind of situations like to evict individuals on these allegations. So just giving you a heads up that this could be a possibility in the future. Not sure why, but if you do change address, make sure that we are the first ones to find out your new address. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. If you get arrested again for anything else, or if you don't report to court, your 2,500 signature bond will be revoked. Thank you.
Holly, that's per judge.
Oh, ma'am. Ma'am, Melvin, ma'am, next on the add-on.
Bye, Evelyn. Are you leaving? Go, go, go. Don't worry about me. I'm all good. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see now. Could you give me that case number again?
Mr. Melvin Sims, he's one of the add-ons, I guess.
Okay,
He's position 1 on the add-on calendar.
got it. I'm sorry, I'm just have to change windows. Okay. This is State versus Melvin Thomas Mims. And his case number is 25 CR 001151H. Mr. Mims, you've been booked in on a charge of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. And this is from March 4th of this year. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you presently is going to be Ms. Bader. Okay, any priors, Mr. Howard?
About 69. On probation for ag assault, 19 SC 170584. 2 parole violations from 2024. 2024 probation. 2020, 2019 FTA. They got several probations in this history. 2010 ag battery conviction.
Thank you. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant is accused of failing to stop and provide his identity to officers when asked. He then resisted when officers tried to place handcuffs on his wrist. This incident did happen at Morehouse College, so I anticipate officers were questioning him about what he was doing on the premises of the university. The state's recommendation, given his history, is $500 shirt bond. Stay away from Morehouse College. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. There is a concern that he will reoffend, Your Honor.
All right. And Ms. Bader, is your client residentially challenged? Or does he have a good address?
He has a good address, Your Honor.
Beckwith Street?
He lives with his aunt. He has been there for 30 years.
Is that Beckwith Street?
Is that correct, sir, Mr. Mims?
Yes, 871 Beckwith Street.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services level 1. He'll need to report to pretrial once a month. And if he gets arrested, and he also needs to stay away from the entire Morehouse College campus. If he gets arrested again, or if he goes to the campus, or if he doesn't report to court, then this $5,000 signature bond will be surrendered and converted to a surety bond. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms. Thank you.
Per Judge Holly.
Add on,
Thank you.
add on to Todd.
I don't have Todd. He wasn't on the pull sheet. Just so you know.
Okay. Let's see now. Okay. Carlos Todd, case number is 25CR001150A. Mr. Todd has been booked in on the following 3 charges: theft by receiving stolen property, a misdemeanor, driving while license suspended or revoked, and driving with improper erratic lane change. This is from February 26, 2025. Mr. Todd, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Ms. Mokeke, do you have a GCIC on Mr. Todd?
I have that he has 23 arrest cycles, a 2024 battery family violence probation violation, 2024 driving while license suspended or revoked, fleeing or attempting to elude, 2024 knowingly driving a motor vehicle on suspended, revoked, or canceled registration, driving without a valid license, 2021 drugs not an original container conviction, and then a 2020 possession or transport of a firearm by a convicted felon. I'll just stop there, Your Honor.
All right.
Officers were investigating a vehicle collision and discovered that the dirt bike the defendant was driving had been reported stolen out of Henry County in October of last year, the victim of that theft being Mr. Jeffrey Rittimer. The defendant said he had purchased the bike from an unknown individual, but was unable to provide the purchase date or the location and could not identify the person he bought the bike from. The defendant's license was also suspended at the time of the incident. The state's recommendation is a $2,500 surety bond, no further contact with Jeffrey Rittimer, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carlos Todd lives on Campbellton Road in a certain apartment 17B of his complex. He is working and has worked at Concrete Pump Supply in Mableton. He also worked in Mableton at another commercial enterprise and basically finds his employment in that area. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond, if at all possible. We have stable address. I was able to reach his friend to at least watch today's proceeding, not contributing to it. It wouldn't have anything to do with it.
I'm sorry, Mr. McLean, not to do what?
Not to contribute today. I mean, the person was just family and watching. So
Okay.
He's local and he's 33 years old. And because of the circumstances, we would ask the court to consider a signature bond under today.
Yeah, thank you. On the theft by receiving stolen property, that's 1,500 surety. On driving while license suspended or revoked, that's $1,000 surety, and that's 2,500 surety. And the erratic lane change, that's going to be $1,000 signature bond through the jail. So this is a 3,500 split bond. I'm not sure if he has a Cobb County hold. I've got the comments hold off, so I'm not sure how the jail's going to interpret that. But if he does make bond, he will be released subject to any pending holds in
Right.
his booking stream.
Hold off usually means the hold has been removed.
I'm sorry?
Hold off usually means the hold has been removed once checked to bond.
Okay. If that hold is not in place, then he should be able to make bond and be released. Condition to the bond is no driving unless he has a valid driver's license, adequate insurance, and proper registration for the vehicle that he operates. Next court date is March 18th. Deputy, are we done with the main calendar?
No. We still have Mr. Robinson, number 14, and Mr. Bass, number 2. Position
Okay.
1 is a medical reset.
Okay, position 1 is a medical reset to tomorrow, March 6, 2025. And who do we have right now?
This is position 14.
This
Robinson.
is Yusuf Robinson, case number 25 CR 001142Y. Mr. Robinson, you've been accused of simple battery family violence from January 7th, 2025. You have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Miss Bader or Mr. McLean? Miss Bader?
No, I actually have a private attorney.
Who's your attorney?
He named and gave the phone number for a private attorney. We did call that office and leave the link, hoping that that person had been hired and everything was complete.
All right. All right, Mr. Robinson, if you have a private counsel, and then we can reset this to tomorrow for your attorney to appear, or you can move forward with this case and we can set a bond. And then after that, your attorney can either come back to jail to readdress bond, or you can make bond and let your attorney know what's going on.
Yes, yes.
Do you want to reset the case to tomorrow, or do you want to address it today?
Address it today.
All right. Please remember, you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say in open court about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case, and it will make your attorney very upset because it'll make it more difficult for him or her to defend you.
Yes, sir.
So you are charged with simple battery family violence. The accusation was filed on March 6, 2025. Mr. Howard, any priors?
8. Open battery out of state court. 23 CR 008 253Y. Open case out of Superior Court burglary, criminal damage to property. It's 24 SC 006494. Open simple assault, terroristic threats out of Clayton County. Yeah, that's it.
Ms. Mukeke?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Miss Lindsay Pippins, who shares a child with the defendant. Officers arrived at the location and met with the victim, who stated the defendant was upset with her because of their daughter's developmental progress. And when she noticed that he was upset, she left the room. She then went back to get her shoes, and the defendant slammed the door in her face. She opened the door, and the defendant proceeded to grab her by the neck, toss her onto the bed, pin her down, and choke her. The victim told officers that she is currently pregnant. The state's recommendation for this defendant is a $3,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would ask the court to sound for the victim in this case, Miss Lindsay Pippins.
Ms. Lindsay Pippins, if you'd like to address the court, this would be the time to unmute and start your video. All right. Mr. Robinson, it looks like you have another open case, 23 CR 008-253Y. And so I'm going to set a bond of 2,500 on the current charge of simple battery family violence. It is a surety bond. You are to have no further contact with Miss Pippin. You're to stay away from the incident location. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And your next court date will be March 18th. And Miss Bridgewater, for the March 18 court date, we will reset this case as well as 23 CR 008-253Y.
Yes, ma'am, I have it.
Thank you.
What was
Mhm.
that bond, Your Honor?
Ms. Mokeke, did you have a question?
Yes, what was that bond amount? I missed it.
2,500 surety.
Thank you.
Right. Next matter we have is Corey Cleveland Bass.
Judge, stand by, let me clear the courtroom for this case.
Okay.
I'm gonna take, you gonna take, come on, you gonna take.
Miss Grace, is it Miss Grace who is could you
Yes.
pause the live stream, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.